Nina, look at this honey. This will look perfect on you. Mom exclaimed, totally ignoring her favorite cake that I baked. Oh, Mom, don't bore me with those petty jewelry. She scowled at Mum while scrolling through her phone. But that's like a heirloom honey. Your Nana wore it to her wedding, and she gave it to me, and before that, her mum. And from 7 generations, we are passing this to our children. Mum told her with a dreamy expression, as she could see her wearing the diamond necklace with diamond studs on her wedding day. Mum, I don't want to wear it. I told you I want Cartier, and it's Tiffany. She whined. Oh, Mia Cara, I will buy Cartier as well. Just wear this one for the ceremony, and you can change after. Mum tried to convince her, and she made a pout. Come here. I have got this amazing mask that came in yesterday from Paris. Your skin needs it. After all, you are going to be the wife of the most successful bachelor businessman. She pulled her to her side, and they both went their way, completely ignoring my presence. The cake in my hand was staring at me, or maybe laughing at me. Because once again it was left behind without even a look, or more like laughing at me. Because I am always getting discarded like an undesirable file. Here goes to the recycle bin. I baked a cake for her and Nina. No matter how much I try, they don't seem to acknowledge me. I took the cake back to the kitchen. As I took it out and covered it, Lila gave me a sympathetic look, and I gave her my fake full-bloom smile. I came back to my room. I started writing. That's what I do, that I love the most. The one thing I find any pleasure in. I write and people read. At least I get their love. I'm a fiction writer by the name of Snowfall. I started writing a few years back. At first I used to write only short stories and simple segments online for people, but then I started writing novels. This is how I forget the disregarding attitude of the world towards me. My parents are always like that. Nina is my older sister. I have always seen Mum and Dad loving her and showering her with care that I craved all my life. Oh, silly me, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Young YN. I'm 21 years old. I am currently completing my studies. I'm studying finance. My dad wanted me to study finance. Well, I didn't have any option. He admitted me to the department and told me I have to attend the classes tomorrow. I don't understand why my parents do that. I'm 3 years younger than Nuna, but yet they don't love me. I feel like they don't love me. Nannies took care of me. But when I grew up enough, I always longed for Mum to do things for me like she does for Nuna. She would do her hair, get her ready for school, and feed her food. They would have family movie nights, and she would sit in the middle of Mum and Dad, and they would have me sit on the other corner, because that's where they wanted me to sit. Once I sat next to Nuna, and Mum and Dad scolded and told me to sit there. They would fuss over her when she gets sick and won't even spare me a look when I'm sick. They bought her toys and gave me the ones she discarded or got bored of. Anyways, I like baking, and I have another secret. I'm a hacker. I perform gigs like hacking someone's accounts or websites, or play games. I get paid well for that. No one knows about my earnings from both sides. No one knows who is Snowfall and Santa. Yes, Santa, because I grant wishes. Anyway, do you think my parents love me? I mean, they provide for me, but they don't talk to me or acknowledge me. The door of my room flew open. Why are you not ready? My mum shouted when she saw me in my usual outfit. For what? I asked. We are invited to a dinner with the Johns, and they invited all of us. Do you want to be an obstacle for your sister, huh? Go and get ready. She shouted at me. Okay, Mum, I tell her, getting up hurriedly and turning my computer off. And wear something proper and elegant. She said in that same tone and went away scowling at me. I let the breath go that I was holding for as long as she entered my room. A room that gives me more warmth than the woman who gave birth to me. The thought brought tears to my eyes, and I gulped past my constricted throat. I quickly showered and got ready. I put on a baby pink and wear light makeup. I decided to go with heels this once. It gave a few inches to my 5'3", just a few. I like being tall. When I got to the living room, Mum and Dad were there waiting for me and Nuna. "What took you so long?" my dad scolded. I bit my bottom lip. "I'm sorry, Dad," I said, and he huffed and muttered some profanities in Italian. "Nina, baby, look at you. So beautiful," my mum exclaimed when she descended the stairs. "Thank you," she spoke, rolling her eyes. "Ah, my beautiful daughter." Dad embraced and gave her a peck on her forehead. My Nuna stared at me. "Who are you so dolled up for?" she asked in satire. You want to impress my husband?" she asked, and I panicked. Number. It's not like that, Nuna. It's not. I'll change." "No need. You are not his type," she said, flipping her hair. Both Mum and Dad looked at me angrily. "Let's go," Nina said, and they followed her. My heart was beating in my chest. The memory of Dad's hand on my cheek kept playing in my head, due to the very same reason. My hand started to shake, and I willed myself to calm down. I moved on my shaky legs, and the whole ride was tense for me. They all sat together in the limo, laughing and talking, while I sat in the corner looking outside the window with my heart in my throat. I know there will be consequences. The dinner was awful for me. I tried to put up with a smile and tried to act normal, but how can I when I know what's coming ahead? My hands shook under the table, and I bit my inner cheek until I tasted my blood. I couldn't eat. My appetite was gone. "You're not eating, dear. You want something else?" Mrs. Jeon asked. She is a warm lady. Everyone stares at me, waiting for my reply. I gulped. No, ma'am, I'm good," I told her, and she nodded her expressions, saying she is not convinced. "You have beautiful eyes," she commented, and the utensils dropped from my fingers. "I'm sorry." I excused, but my dad's eyes were burning into me. I gulped down the water. When I look up, my eyes locked with two brown orbs staring at me intently. My sister was next to him, talking to him. I felt like I would throw up when I looked over to my dad. He was talking to Mr. John, but when he looked at me, the stick on my palm cracked brutally. "You're useless," he shouted while striking another one. My palms are bright red by now after 13 strikes. I'm sorry," I said, my voice breaking. I was holding back my tears because if I cry, he would hit me more. "What did you think wearing this crap?" he shouted, and I flinched. He hit me until I was actually bleeding and kicked me out of his office room. Mum was coming out of Nina's room, and she saw my bleeding hands. She tisked and scowled. "You should know better." With that, she went away. I went to my room and closed the door. That's when a broken sob left my lips, and I sank to the carpeted floor. My hands were pulsing now. They shook as they continued to bleed. I didn't want my beige carpet to get stained, so I got up and went to the bathroom. I opened the tap and slowly pulled my hands under the water. It burns. Another sob left my lips, and I slumped on the sink. My whole body started to shake, and I felt my vision turning black. I crouched down and pulled my hands to my chest. The bathroom started closing on me, and I took stuttered and broken breaths in and out. My body feels like it's leaving me, and I'm losing control. After a few stuttered and broken breaths, I calmed down. I got up holding the edge of the sink. My body was still not supporting me. I stood holding the sink, and when I looked into the mirror, I felt horror. My neck and chest was covered in blood from my hands. My lower lip was shaking, and my mascara was all smudged. I washed my hands. I bandaged them. I couldn't take off the dress, so cut it with the scissors in a numb state. I didn't have the energy to shower, so I slumped on my bed after wearing a long shirt and slept. When I woke up, it was bright outside, 5:20 p.m. I slept through the night and the day, and no one came to wake me up. I got up accepting my reality. With pain in my both hands, I freshened up and again lay down in my bed and slept again. It was her wedding day. Everything should be perfect. I wear gloves to hide the bandages in my hand. Only 3 days ago, I got the lashes on my hand. I entered her room and everyone was so tense, mostly Mum and Dad. The guards were everywhere. "Wyan, did you see your sister?" Dad asked me angrily, and I shook my head. "Sir." A guard brought a piece of paper. He gave the paper to Dad, and his facial expressions turned to horror. "What is it?" Mum asked, and took the paper from him. She gasped. She ran away. "Oh my God, Leo, how are we going to tell the Johns?" She cried and more cried. "Is this some kind of joke?" Mr. Jeon shouted. "No, I'm so sorry my daughter loves someone else. That's what she had written in the note." My dad spoke with his head down. "Ha in!" "Everyone is outside. The press is outside. What are we going to say?" Mrs. John spoke, addressing her husband. Her worry evident in her voice and face. "No one is going to say anything. I'm here to take a bride home, and I will." Jeon Jungkook spoke, and everyone looked at him. "But son, she ran away." Mrs. John told him of the fact he already knew of. "But there is this one." He spoke looking at me. I was listening to everything, but when I saw he was looking at me, I gulped. I looked at everyone, and they all were staring at me. "If you want to keep your firm running, get her ready in the next 10 minutes. He ordered like a king and left the room. Mr. and Mrs. John went after him. My mum and dad stared at me. My hands shook as I walked stiffly on the aisle with my dad by my side, pushing me. I willed my legs to stay stable. After the Johns left, my parents didn't ask me and ordered me to get ready. My dad's words still pierce me like a dagger. "At least you're useful for one thing. Now stop this drama and get ready." My life is nothing to them. My eyes filled with tears and I inhaled a shaky breath. In my veil, no one can really tell. They took my bandages and gloves off. I keep my palms hidden so no one would see it. We stopped and I kept my eyes down. A huge hand appeared in front of me. I looked at my dad, who stared at me sternly, devoid of any emotions. I inhaled a breath in and out and looked at the man who was supposed to marry my sister. His face also was devoid of any expression. In fact, cold. I took his hand, thinking of another hell I'm letting myself into. I stood in front of him. His stare is so hard I can feel him heating my face. When I looked at him, I was right. He stares deep in my eyes. My heart was banging in my chest. I kept my gaze leveled to his broad chest. I didn't dare look at him, and the priest kept speaking. When he said, "Do you Jang Wyan take Jeon Jungkook as your wedded husband?" I kept quiet and gulped. I finally got the courage and looked at him. My small hands in his big ones and his thumb caressed my skin while his eyes softened just for a second. "I do," I whispered. The priest asked the same line to him, and his deep voice vibrated in me. He slipped the ring on my finger, and I did the same. But when the priest announced that we were wedded husband and wife and we may kiss, my heart went wild in my chest. I stared at him and he came close to me. He cupped my cheek and I closed my eyes tightly. But then I felt his lips on my forehead. I opened my eyes and I was shocked. I expected. I blinked and everyone's hooting reached me. All the event went by in a blur, but I could see my parents' glares. My hands started to hurt. I put my gloves on and I could see them getting stained. I excused myself and went to my room. When I tried to take my gloves off, the cloth was stuck to the wound. I pulled it off carefully, but it hurt a lot. My door opened and I gasped, turning around and hiding my hands behind my back. It was him, Jeon Admirer, my husband. "Is everything all right?" he asked. I nodded my head while biting my lower lip. He came to me and my eyes tracked him wildly. He stood in front of me with a frown. He reached for my hand and I resisted, but he pulled them out from behind my back. He looked at me frowning and I averted my eyes. "How did this happen?" he asked. I fell on shattered glass." I stuttered, and he hummed. He looked for a first aid box and brought it to me. He softly tended my wound. I hissed when the alcohol pad pushed at my open skin. "You need to be careful." His deep voice rumbled, and I stayed quiet. He bandaged my hands and slipped my ring on my finger. "You want to leave?" he asked, and I looked at him. Does he have some superpower or something? I stared at him, and he tilted his head. All of a sudden, his scent is so strong taking me in. "John YN?" He called me, and I nodded. He placed his index under my chin and spoke. "Use your pretty mouth, princess." He called me pretty and princess in one sentence. I blinked, taken aback. "Yes," I whispered. He smiled. He smiled that he doesn't do. I have never seen him smile at my sister. "Good girl." He spoke and led me out with his arm around my waist. Everyone stared at me and him. He took his leave to his parents and then to my parents. My parents glared at my waist where he had his hand firmly around my waist. I was a mess of nervous and overwhelming energy. I sighed and rested my head on the headrest. Once I was finally in the car away from the watchful eyes, but the relief was short-lived when he climbed next to me. The car started moving and he immersed himself in his phone. "Next time think before lying to me, princess." He spoke suddenly. "Huh?" I asked, because I was in my own restless world. "Next time don't lie to me," he said, staring straight at my hands. "I'm sorry," I said, looking down in my lap and biting my lower lip. "And stop assaulting your poor lip. Ask me when you need that service," he said in his deep voice. "Huh?" I looked at him. The smirk on his lips was sinister. "You are cute." He told me, and I don't know what to say. The man who was supposed to be my brother-in-law is now my husband. "That was a compliment, princess. Seems like you don't do well with compliments," he said, and I don't know what to say. "I'm not going to eat you, you know," he said, and a smile crept on my lips. "Oh, so this princess smiles so pretty," he teased, and the smile expanded. I felt at ease. "Thank you," I said, after a long time. "For?" he asked. "I know I'm not your first choice and definitely not the best, but you're being nice to me. So thank you," I told him, and traced his thumb over his lower lip. "Who says you're not my first choice?" he asked with a smirk, and I gulped. We both kept quiet after that. His words kept playing in my head. His house is massive. A maid received us and showed me his room. He went to get his work done and told me to not wait up for him. It's massive. She helped me change. That dress was hell heavy and a bit long and tight on me. I could barely breathe in it. Changing into my pajamas, which were actually meant for her. They are also tight. Especially the top. I am big in the upper area, so I saw his shirts and chose comfort. I pulled his shirt on and hit the bed. I'm so tired that I dozed off the instant my body hit the soft mattress.